tinfoil hat.
Oh, what the fuck are you guys even talking about?
Global controls will have to be imposed, and a world governing body will be created to enforce them.
Welcome to Tinfoil Hat. We go deep, homeboy. Aaron, open your mind. Drink from the fountain of knowledge. There's lizard people everywhere. That's some interdimensional shit. Wake up, Aaron.
This is only the beginning.
Dude, you just blew my mind.
Are you ready to get your mind blown?
Revolution will be podcasted.
And it will be podcasted. That opening was janky. I'm sure we're going to hear about it, but we appreciate the effort. Guys, welcome back to another Tinfoil Hat. You know who I am. You know what I'm here to do. As always, joining me, XG in the place to be.
How's it going?
Doing well, man. A lot of good feedback from the War on Drugs episode. A lot of weirdness on the cop episode. It's very interesting. You guys got to understand something with this show. We're not on a side. We don't do sides. We report. And this notion that, you know, we're reporting. If I make something about Trump, you guys are going to flip out, or about cops, or about, you know, whoever, dude. It's just like we have no sides. We only report what we learn. And you know what? Maybe sometimes people on your side aren't doing it right or doing it with love and coming from a good place. And that's just the truth. And, you know, it's like like I said on that episode, my grandpa was a cop. My cousin is a cop. I understand how hard a job of being a cop is. But I'm also going to tell you, when the people push back and rise up, who are they going to send to break that revolution? Who's going to be sent in to stormtroop? It's going to be the cops. So, like, let's be honest here.
That, and you were playing devil's advocate. Corey was going hard.
Corey was going hard. Corey wants to burn everything down. That's Corey. Guys, we got some dates coming up. Check them out. Where's my? Do you got my?
I got it.
Okay, go to the dates real quick. We got a whole bunch of dates. Let's see what's on there. We got Comedy Chaos next week. We got Bert Kreischer, Firing the Kid, Tony Hinchcliffe, Tony Baker. The lineup is pure murder, Ian Bagg. And then starting, I think, when are we? Oh, yeah. So next month is the big Return to Texas tour, the Space Cowboys one. Myself, my man XG, Eddie Bravo, we're going to be in Dallas on what day? The 24th? No? Yeah? And then
14th.
The 14th. And then the following day, we will be at Houston at the Secret Group.
And that's the 16th.
And that's the 16th. No. They're back-to-back, dude, aren't they?
Oh, it says 14th, 16th.
Okay, I have the wrong date. It's back-to-back. One night we're in Dallas. We're at Hyenas. And then the next day we're in Houston, and we're at the Secret Group. Tickets are available at samtripoli.com. Go there, click them. And then at the end of the month, we're going to be at the Skankfest in New York. And it's myself, XG, and I'm working on a very special guest to pop in there for you. And Tim Dillon will be on that podcast as well. You have a date coming up this...
Oh, yeah, this Wednesday.
This will be out.
Yep.
After that. Okay.
Too late.
Right. So we'll do it on the next one. We want to thank our good friends at BetDSI. BetDSI for all your bet needs. Go to BetDSI. Use the promo code HAT100, and they will match up to $500, whatever you deposit. Now, if you opt into that bonus, you have to gamble so much before you can pull your money out. If you just want to make a one-time bet, don't opt into the bonus, okay? And just make your bet, and you'll be able to pull it out. And you guys are like, why you do that? Okay, let's say you put $500 in, they double that to $1,000. You could just pull your money out and make $500.
That's not how that works.
That's called bad business here. So support our good friends. We got everything going on. The NBA playoffs, UFC, boxing, baseball's heating up. It's all the good stuff. And in August, it starts really cooking with gas. So help out. They support the show. Support them. And then go to abx.org as well. Go check out abx.org. They are sponsoring the next Comedy Chaos. abx.org, Absolute Extract. They sponsor Comedy Chaos live at the Comedy Store, and that will be the 21st at 10:30 p.m. Tickets are only $25. And they are the Nike, they are the Reebok, they are the top shelf of all your weed needs, CBD. Dude, I'm getting hit up by every comic. Hey, dude, where can I get some of this CBD? Where can I get some of that? Joey Diaz, blah, blah, blah. Everybody's liking the pills that you can pop, and, it's good for you. It's not like synthetic crap. It's like this good weed, medical marijuana stuff, and they're good. Whatever you want. You want vape pens. You want flour. You want some oils to put on your vajayjay, ladies. They got it all there, dude. Get your vagina high. Go there, check it out, and dude, let's say you don't smoke weed. Get a ton of it. This stuff's like cash, dude. You can pay for shit in weed now, and you should do it with the best out there. That's ABX, Absolute Extract. Go to abx.org and check them out. T-shirts. Everybody's loving the T-shirts. Go to tinfoilhattshirts.com. Check them out. New T-shirts about to get up. XG came up with a good saying called "Loyal to the Foil."
Yep.
And we're gonna do our own version of "Don't Tread on Me." It's a "Loyal to the Foil." It should be up this week. I don't know if it's up yet, but it's a beautiful shirt. Do we have it? Did you find it?
It's not on there.
Okay. But you guys want shirts, you want to support the show, go to tinfoilhattshirts.com and grab a shirt. It's a great way to support the show. And if you really want to support the show, be a Patreon. Go to Patreon. Go to patreon.com/tinfoilhat. And you can check out Conspiracy Nows. It's the world's greatest, worst public access show. Allie's been on it. And XG's on it now, and it's a really great, awesome show where we just sit there, we talk about whatever, and then the guys who run it try to put up the weirdest videos in the back. And we have a doubleheader this Wednesday. This will come out after that, but just go check it out. Go to patreon.com/tinfoilhat, and that is our business. Today we're gonna do an episode. We're gonna revisit the whole Julian Assange thing. Where's he at? What's this mean for us? What's this mean for freedom of the media and all that stuff? I had a guest coming on, but unfortunately he could not make it, so I decided to call in the Suicide Squad and put together a group of people I know are very passionate. Joining us on the power of Skype, he is a series regular. He's a Tinfoil Hat series regular, which means he can join the union. He's from the Conspiracy Farm podcast. Please welcome Jeffrey Wilson, everybody.
What's up, guys? Greetings and salutations. Always loyal to the foil, brother.
Loyal to the foil. Across from me, she has been on the show before. She's part of the Ruins, which is a research group for the show where people just talk mad shit and nobody gets their feelings hurt. Please welcome Ellie Hagstrom, everybody. Yeah.
Hello. Hi.
Did I get it right?
Yeah. Finally.
Boom! Boom!
After a year of working for you.
Dude, you don't understand. Saying people's name is the hardest part of this whole thing. And you heard her on our Armenian podcast about the genocide. She said, if you ever do something on Julian Assange, I would love to come back. So we brought her back. Returning champion, Mariette Soudjian.
Mariette Soudjian.
Okay, close enough. Please don't take offense to that.
No, I don't.
Completely retarded.
I have trouble pronouncing names and even words, so.
I love you. Thank you for coming on. The Armenian episode got such incredible feedback, and not only from my relatives who just were like so thankful that I did it, but just people who were like, I didn't know that happened. I didn't know anything about that, and hardcore Armenians didn't even know a lot of the information was back. So with that said, I would say that that's probably my favorite episode I've ever done, even though I didn't hardly talk because it was very hard to just grasp what was being said on that episode. But what was your feedback on that show?
I got really good feedback, and I was very nervous about it. But my father's very honest, and he was like, that was an excellent episode. And I was getting tweets from some of your followers, and they're like, that was the best episode. And there were a lot of those comments that was the best episode.
I was very thankful for the response, and everybody just realized how important that episode was. And we're going to do that once a year, and we'll always bring it back until that fat fuck over there at the Young Turks changes the name. I have I have just basically waged a war against that name. Listen, dude, I have nothing personal against him as a person, but to have that name is just completely offensive and it needs to go. And you can sit there and be like, oh, words. I'm not a politically correct person. It's just like, that's just a stupid name that I just can't believe that.
It's like changing it to the Brave Nazis.
Yeah, right.
Right
Just
here.
like, it's ridiculous. So I appreciate you coming back on. Today we're going to do a little conversation about what's going on with Julian Assange, where we are, what's the whole thing. Real quick, I just want to kind of go around and get everybody's kind of feel on what they think is going on right now, and then we'll start diving into it. Marit, what do you think?
Well, first of all, I kind of want to bring up a really good article by badass journalist Caitlin Johnston.
She's wonderful.
Or is it Johnson? How do you pronounce it? See,
I
don't know.
On this show, it's however you want to say it at the moment.
I love her. And she wrote an article that's entitled Debunking All the Assange Smears, and there's about 29. We won't be able to get through all of them, but I'm going to bring up some of them. And I like to talk about this whole thing is based on the war on information.
Yeah.
And our world, our reality is all controlled. Our information is all controlled. And I think now we have 5 media companies that own everything because I think, didn't Disney just buy Fox?
Yeah. So we had 5. We're down to 4. And the government decided that
I think it was 6 and now it's 5. I'm not sure, but
okay.
There's just
Right.
And so they own everything from TV to radio to the online blogs and the movies, everything. So we're propagandized to our bones.
Yeah.
And within that, all my friends, they live in an echo chamber because they're all, reading and watching the same stuff. And if they don't read the fake news media or watch the fake news media, they're watching movies. And, in the last episode that I did with you, we talked about how Hollywood is part of the propaganda machine too.
For sure.
And so in this world, it's kind of like...
you would be amazed at how many famous people are
Idiots.
military brats, like the sons and the daughters of high-ranking military people.
Oh, yeah, and I've heard, didn't Ben Affleck once joke about how there's a lot of CIA agents that run in Hollywood?
For sure, dude. Those are the ones who had fun. They're like, okay, here's your budget for cocaine and bad decisions, right? And yeah, it's definitely deep. Jeffrey, what's your thoughts on the whole Julian Assange thing?
I mean, I think our girl here just, mic dropped. She can kind of leave now because that's pretty much it. There's just a war on information. It's all controlled. I mean, this goes back a very, very long time. And we've talked about many times, Operation Mockingbird, et cetera, et cetera. They control the narrative and thus your perception of what's going on in the world. There's a lot going on with this Julian Assange thing. We kind of alluded to it before we went on air. It appears to be a war on journalism, et cetera, et cetera. Then we kind of talked about is who's a white hat, who's a black hat, who's playing what role. Is Julian Assange on the white hat side? Is Edward Snowden on the white hat side? So it gets a little convoluted, but I mean, hopefully, I don't know. We'll see. But for me, my initial reaction was very upset because, like, man, they're demonizing, they're weaponizing truth. And then this goes back to your, Michael Hastings, Rolling Stone reporter who winds up dead, Andrew Breitbart, Gary Webb going back, busting up in the whole old CIA cocaine stuff. So it's really disconcerting, and I'm hoping there's a larger plan to this. So, I mean, because, again, we're all on the bubble, man. If you don't like Alex Jones, you don't like Farrakhan, I get it. But it's a slippery slope, man. If you're okay with them taking out people you don't like, be careful when it's people you do like.
For sure. Ellie, what's your thoughts real quick? I know you're going to drop some bombs on us towards the end, but what do you think that...
Well, a lot of the speculation is who's who in the game, so everybody's wondering, like, is Julian Assange a white hat? Is he a black hat? Is Snowden a black hat? A lot of people think Snowden is a black hat. They think that he's working for the CIA, outing the NSA so the CIA can control all of the spyware and all the malware that goes into the phones.
Wow,
and stuff.
I never thought about that.
So, because the NSA and the CIA that they have.
They call that sheep dipping, right?
Well, I think so.
That's called sheep dipping. That's an intelligence term for when somebody's old persona is kind of wiped away and a new persona is kind of presented, and that way they could be like a double agent. And that's kind of what they're talking about. Peter Stork right now is a a sheep dip double agent for the CIA who infiltrated the FBI. And we've heard that. We talked about this on the show, how the CIA is infiltrating the FBI now. And they're controlling the FBI as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing, too. It's like, Snowden gets to live. He gets to exist in Russia. And he does teleconferences now. And he's getting paid to do all these talks. And why is he allowed to carry on in business? And Julian Assange is arrested. So... there's a huge, debate about who's who.
Yeah, and so I've heard a lot of people say that, because there's a movie on Edward Snowden. There's a Hollywood movie on Edward Snowden. Like, why would Hollywood do that? But a lot of people who think that Edward Snowden is a hero, they think that Julian Assange is a villain.
Yeah.
So maybe Hollywood does that on purpose. Like, maybe it's done.
Misinformation.
Just to muddy the waters. To
Tell you what they want to tell you, just like Titanic. Remember?
Dude.
Or pretend they're kind of not that biased, or
Yeah.
halfway.
XG, what is your thoughts on Julian Assange?
I think he's fucked.
You think he's fucked?
Yeah.
Do you think he is a? Do you
Sweden
think he's who he is, who he says he is, or do you think there's something else going on?
I think he says who he says he is.
Okay.
Yeah, I do too.
I do.
It's very interesting. I mean, we've done another episode. We've done an episode on before, kind of his history. He comes from a sex cult in Australia. His family was big in this cult.
Really?
Yeah. His family was a giant cult out of Australia. There's like this weird super blonde cult. It's like really weird, and he was like, his family's very high up in there, and that's kind of where he kind of got, I guess, his outlaw kind of attitude, and then he became a hacker, and he was doing some hacking stuff, and it's very.
Well, that's the thing too. I mean, he's such a genius. He's the one that programmed these. He's programming computers in order to take all this information. And it's like he's writing codes. He's a programmer, a code writer, and it's like, well, people wonder, like, where do you get all these skills? It's the same thing with Aaron Swartz. Like, well, he surrounded himself by people that were in the military. Like, why was he dealing with James Dolan? Why was he dealing with Chelsea or whatever?
And we're going to get into that because that's some very interesting stuff. But let's start with the timeline of this. Basically where he starts getting trouble with, we'll start from 2006. 2006, the first published documents by Wikileaks with documents on Somalia released allegations of illegalities by the Swiss bank, Sarah Palin's Yahoo emails, I love it, the secret Bibles of Scientology, and membership lists of the far-right British National Party. So he's just.
And that was the first drop, was in 2006.
2006. So we're talking only 13 years ago. This kind of, and this was kind of interesting because the drop. Just think about how big Sarah Palin was for a while.
I know.
And to drop all of her emails. Imagine someone dropping your mom's emails. By the way, Doug Stanley has the greatest joke about Sarah Palin. What's the difference between her mouth and her vagina? Only half the shit that comes out of her vagina is retarded. That's a great bit. If nobody laughed at that, I can't believe you didn't laugh at that. That's a great bit. So that's in 2006. 2010, WikiLeaks came to the global attention by publishing tens of thousands of classified documents from the United States, from the U.S. Army helicopter gunner and collateral murder to the Afghani war diaries, okay? In the State Department diplomatic cables. It was followed by 2011 by the Gitmo files documents 767 of the 779 prisoners in Guantanamo Bay. So
they were releasing the names of the prisoners that were in Gitmo and saying who they were. Which
later on we found out that half these guys weren't even involved in anything. That they weren't even Al-Qaeda. They were just grabbing dudes off the streets and throwing them into prisons.
Right.
So this is where he drops is this the Manning stuff? This is where the Manning stuff gets
yeah, because the collateral damage or whatever, and collateral murder and Iraq war logs came out. That was in 2010.
So a lot of people see this as this kind of like either as snitching or betraying your fellow soldier or disrespecting your country, but it's like
Well, they released names of people that were working in Afghanistan with the United States, and then Afghanistan said, we're going to retaliate, we're going to kill these people that are working with the US.
Yeah, that's
and that
rough.
was the whole thing, was that it's a problem during war for names to get out and stuff like that.
Yeah, but here's the whole thing about that. It's like, okay, the United States is upset that these names are released, but they never help these guys. We've seen over and over again where we constantly tell these locals, help us and we'll help you. And as soon as the mission's done,
but they
we
don't
leave
care.
them there to die.
That was just an excuse at the time to get her, right? Or to get Bradley or whatever.
Yeah,
so they say,
Yeah.
The fact of the matter is, innocent civilians are being killed.
Yeah.
So period. That's what it's about.
And that's what I was gonna say. You can't overlook that collateral murder video because the volumes. It was literally almost 90 to 100,000 different, basically reports from soldiers of different classes, basically saying how they have killed innocent men, women, and children because they got to make reports of it. And then you see videos of indiscriminate, just straight up murder. These helicopter pilots killing journalists. And then when a guy in a minivan pulls up with his kids to try to help one of the only survivors, they open up on him as well. So, I mean, it's just, again, it's that they're weaponizing truth. This goes back to like Daniel Ellsberg and the Pentagon Papers. Without that, we wouldn't have known about shit like the My Lai massacre when forces go in and just decimate entire villages. And what happens once that becomes public? Richard Nixon pardons the ones who are responsible. So it oftentimes tends to be like the system covering the system. Because that collateral murder, dude, there should have been many people in jail for that. Just that alone.
Right.
Well, yeah, and what we see is that we say we got to go in and stop a bad man or a bad dictator, and then we go in there and we're even worse. And we treat people even worse. You know, say whatever you want about Saddam, and we could sit here and we could argue whether chemical weapons were actually used. What we find later on as more information comes out is that, you know, like in Syria, we know that he didn't gas his own people. And you could argue with me in the comment section all you want, but the UN even came in and before Obama, it's called Red Line, Rat Line. Go take a look at that whole thing, where UN got in there before Obama could send troops and start a full-on attack, and discovered that the type of gas being used wasn't what Assad had. It was actually more along the lines of what was in the Libyan war chest and his armory after we illegally assassinated him. And this was, of course, Obama, Hillary, and Valerie Jack, you know, the one everybody got all mad about because they did a Planet of the Apes joke and words hurt, you know, even though she had a full-on say. She actually wanted to push the assassination quicker from what I've read, and that they said slow it down, but she was directly involved in the illegal assassination of Muammar Gaddafi, which has led to open air slave trades in Africa right now, in Libya right now.
And not to mention he was sodomized to death. Just a fun fact.
Yeah, I mean, we're a country.
I didn't know that part.
Oh yeah.
Oh, dude, it was just, and then Hillary's laughing. We came, we saw, he died.
Yeah.
You know?
I know, and so people are like, you know, when Hillary said that she wanted to kill Julian Assange, can we just drone the guy?
Yeah.
And people are like, oh, she's just joking. I'm like, yeah, she was joking about killing Gaddafi.
Yeah.
We came, we saw, he died. Ha 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 ha. There's an awesome remix dance.
But Sam, going back to what you said about the dictator, so often that we've talked about the Hegelian dialectic of problem, reaction, solution. We create the problem. There's a reaction, and then we go in and solve the problem we created. 90% of these dictators we put in place. Saddam Hussein, I mean, it's like it's inside baseball all the time.
And
it's just, again, Venezuela, same thing. It's the same fucking playbook every time.
Exactly. And who's arming, funding, training these terrorists? You know, try to tell Americans this. And in a post-Iraq invasion world, it's unacceptable for Americans to still believe the damn narrative. Like, look who our allies are. Look what we're doing. And you have, like, you know, you're going and pointing the finger and saying, this is a dictator. We need to take them out. This is a dictator. You do not bomb children to save them.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, that does not make sense at all. Like,
the women and the children, then we kill women and children, and just like it makes no sense at all.
Hillary Clinton supporters are like, she's for women and children because she says she's for women and children. I'm like, yeah, she's for bombing women and children.
You know, it's very interesting because, you know, Jeffrey, I think you would text me that things are about to get kind of really interesting now that we have this whole thing with the, you know, these war boats going to outside the waters of Iran. And a lot of people are now talking about we're about to see a full-on repeat of Gulf of Tonkin. Because if we know anything about...
Hey, were the Saudi boats hit? Because there were no satellite images, so they were saying like it didn't happen.
Of course it did. But no, they're going to keep saying it.
Right.
I don't even know why they go...
Same fucking playbook, literally.
Right? And here's what do we know, what we've always talked about. Even when we go, you know, Jeffrey and I talk about how like everything seems like their own piece. And their own thing, and then when you take a kind of a step back, they're all pieces of the same puzzle. And it's just like if you get into Anunnaki, you think about they created this controller group, right? Who's like super reptilians, and you think about they're all psychopaths. What psychopaths can't do is come up with anything creative. Think about all the comedians who are known for joke stealers. They're all psychopaths. They can't create anything, so they gotta jack shit. So let's go back to these guys. They just keep using the same fucking game plan over and over again because they can't come up with anything fucking original.
Hey, if it ain't broke, don't break it.
Yeah, and if
You know
it is
there's
broke,
there's nobody
break
over
more.
here legitimately holding them accountable. You go back to the sinking of the fucking Maine to start the Spanish-American War, or Gulf of Tonkin, or babies being pushed over in incubators, or now Venezuela, or now Iran. I mean, it would be kind of funny if it wasn't so fucking dire and so serious. The men, women, and children we know are going to be killed, and our brothers and sisters and cousins and mothers and all that shit are going to be sent to another war to die for bullshit. And it's, you know,
and we don't want it. People are tired of it. So when Julian Assange puts this out, it's not like snitching. It's not betraying this like one for all for one. It's like, dude, we are what we say we're fighting. We went into Afghanistan because we thought they hit us, and then through people.
No, we knew they didn't. We knew they didn't.
Well,
we knew
you and I knew
19
that,
Saudi
and maybe a
hijackers,
couple
and then we
people
go
knew
sell
that.
them $80
It
billion
took a while,
worth of
though.
weapons.
In the beginning, you can't say you knew that right away.
Well, I knew something was up out the gate. Didn't even make sense. Like how a plane could be lost that long into space and not get shot down. Like I knew when I looked at like the ground and I'm like, where the fuck is the plane? Later on, I started asking, where's the buildings? Like where are the buildings? They fall, these giant buildings fall. Where are the buildings? Where are the buildings after they crash? That's a whole different show. But we got lied into a war that we know is a war that was a lie.
Again.
Now it looks like they're going to do it again. And when you have a video from a guy at the CFR going, it looks like the only way we're going to be able to get into war with Iran is a false flag. There is a video of him saying that.
Yeah, there's a video.
You go back to General Wesley Clark. Go back to Wesley Clark naming those countries.
Yeah.
This is one of them.
Named all
so was
7 of
Venezuela.
them.
You go to Hillary Clinton on camera saying, we need to look at the Iraq war as a business opportunity. Right there in your face. You show this to her supporters and they're like, huh? They don't get what war crimes are. And I remember when I was at the convention in 2016, Leon Panetta comes on stage, you know, and you have all these war criminals coming on stage saying, Orange Man bad, and the Hillary supporters say, yeah, Orange Man bad, right? So he comes on and the Bernie supporters are like, no more war. And so the Hillary supporters were given, we're told to counter chant us with USA, which is a very Republican thing to do since they hate Republicans. And so they don't, and then they turn the lights off on us, like to punish us. And we're like, okay, but that was just an example of how they don't care what war crimes are, like, you know. And, you know, when I was at the convention, I was not using the word warmonger because they get really emotional, or they don't. And I said interventionist. I use an euphemism like interventionist, and they're like, that's just the word. And that's the thing. Like, you know, they talk about a white privilege and male privilege, but they have a moral blind spot called American privilege.
And they're all trust fund kids who who think tanks have come up with these terms, male privilege, white privilege, and they've been fucking just put out by these apparatus of propaganda that allow stupid people to regurgitate them when they don't have a real argument. And like
They never have an argument.
and we see in Hollywood these white female elite actresses,
Deborah Messing,
like crying about how how hard it is to be them, even though they're from private schools. Their parents made money in everything they fucking rail against, supposedly as a liberal. And then he used these terms and like 70 cents on the dollar. I know we have two females here and they might want to argue this point, but that is really just a fucking psyop that convinced women, in particular white women, to be a part of this oppressed minority. So when they wailed on white guys on the nightly news that they could separate the white women because they don't want to piss off white women, because white women have to purchase more stuff in our economy than any other fucking group out there. They've done studies. They're 70% of the purchase power. You don't want to piss off that group because any fucking ad you run, women will associate negativity with that. But if you make them feel like their life is shit because they've been held back by a fucking patriarchal society, even though they fully engaged in this fucking power status and all this shit, and it's just to get us all to fight with each other. Those terms are just there to get us to fight with each other, to empower the weak.
Well, it's the same thing about the refugees that were, they did the Muslim ban on the planes or whatever, and it's like, well, why? But they don't need to leave if you stop bombing the fuck out of them.
Yeah, exactly. It's like we bombed during Obama's time. Like we bombed
lot.
5 of those countries.
Yeah, exactly.
We bombed 5. No one said anything
So they're
about that.
They're outraging over, like nobody, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, what about
This kind of goes
Mexico?
back to the war on information you were talking about, because
Yes.
clearly
Right.
that wasn't a Muslim ban. Bangladesh wasn't on that list. Many countries in Africa weren't on that list. Indonesia wasn't on that list. It was these lists that we were having a problem with what we're talking about. A lot of these countries were financing and arming these factions.
Right.
Yes, and like look at Mexico right now. Like these Mexicans are trying to come here and take our jobs. Like, no, they're not. They're fleeing a drug war that our fucking government has fully fucking funded through weapons and money. Like, it goes back to, like, dude, the Mexican cartel may not be the president of Mexico, but they've done it. They got like 2 families out there that run the whole Mexican drug trade, and they arm and fund them. And it's easier to fund those 2 families than have to pay off everybody in fucking Mexico.
You want to know how that's true?
Well, and this goes back to that Hegelian
Jeffrey, hold on.
dialectic,
Sorry.
problem, reaction, solution. I'm sorry.
You know how that's true?
How?
Canada's cold as fuck, the weather sucks, and people ain't coming there. And
Yeah.
Mexico, which is way warmer, way nicer, they got nice beaches, they're coming up. Why? Because you said
100%.
Yeah, the drug war.
Because
in Canada,
the drug
people
war,
are chilling there.
It's violence.
Yeah.
People, they're beheading people, killing people.
Making $15 a day.
They want to.
Yeah,
They
a
want
day,
to
a day.
decriminalize drugs down there, and the U.S. government will not let them because the CIA makes so much money off the drug war to fund black ops operations.
Yep.
Jeffrey, you had something to say earlier?
I was just going to say, and they're thinking long game too. Not only are they doing, funding the cartels, which they've been doing forever, they're incentivizing this illegal immigration program, because long game, 10, 15 years, they're creating a voting block. These guys are coming over here getting free shit. Like, why would I not vote Democrat? They're giving us all this free shit, driver's licenses and food stamps, all this other stuff. I mean, this is definitely, it's obviously social engineering, but this is long game. This isn't 1 or 2 years. They're looking at the longer game here.
Yeah, for sure. So back to Julian Assange. So he puts out these cables about the war crimes being committed by the U.S. government and the military. Okay. Then we find out the collateral murder documents. Okay. And then in August 2010, the Swedish prosecution first issues a warrant for Mr. Julian Assange on claims of basically sexual assault, right?
Right.
Even though there was no evidence, this was an attempt to get him extradited to be able to be tried on false charges.
Yeah, unproven allegations. And the fact like they're just making more, bringing more attention to that instead of what's happening, like what happened in Iraq is just, I already don't trust it. You know what I mean?
Well, they dropped the case. Why did they? I mean, the cop admitted it was a lie and it was fabricated. But now, however many years later after they dropped it and they go pinch him, now it's an issue again.
Yeah, and it's
bullshit.
It's interesting because it gets dropped basically in 2012, but yet he's still forced to live there until 2019.
Well, I thought Ecuador gave him that's when he went to the Ecuadorian embassy, was because he was trying. That's why they gave him asylum or whatever.
Well, so Ecuador grants asylum to Mr. Assad, saying there's fear for his human rights may be violated if he's extradited.
Right.
In 2015, August 2015, Swedish prosecutors dropped the investigation into 2 allegations, one of them molestation and one of them unlawful coercion, because they run out of time to question him. But he still faces more serious accusations of rape. But even those get dropped.
They got dropped, yeah.
As well.
But look at what they have him for now. They're going through all of this, all these horrible crimes he committed. What's his maximum penalty? 5 fucking years?
Right,
yeah,
that's it.
It
and he
doesn't
probably
make
would do
any
2
sense
of that.
at
That's
all.
why I think, me personally, an aspect of this, the 4D chess, I think they're trying to get him back here. Trump's trying to get him back here so he can start testifying about the files, the emails, all the stuff about collusion, et cetera, that they found out.
I don't think Trump has his back.
No,
Trump wanted to kill him too. That's what his mother, Christine Assange, tweeted way before the 2016 election.
We're going to get into that. I want to get into the arrest of him. First of all, what do we do? Okay, there's some big dates here of stuff that he's dropped. Okay, let's go through some of the bigger drops. Where do we go? 2009 Scientologist, September 2009, the Mitten Report, July 2010, Afghani War Diaries. Okay, and here's the thing I want to say about Julian Assange. He releases everything, even when it's not in his best interest, and that's very important to remember when it comes to Donald Trump, because this whole theory has been based on these idiots on the left. Okay, that he only released some of the stuff. They didn't release it all, and he kept all the stuff on Trump hidden. And I tell you, that is not his MO. In my honest opinion, he has always released everything, even when it's not in his best interest, which we see later on he does with Ecuador. When there's pressure to kick him out, he still releases documents to say Ecuador took like $10 billion or $1.5 billion from the World Banking Organization, which basically expedited him getting kicked out.
And that was the whole problem between him and his partner Daniel Domscheit or whatever, was that Domscheit wanted to control the information that was being dropped in the Dropbox, and Julian said absolutely not. We need to just get rid of everything.
Just put it all out.
Right, so there's no questioning. And that was their major fight. And then Domscheit, after the whole thing went down, now he started Open Leaks or whatever it's called, and that's the new one that he's doing. But again, he was accused of being counterintelligence because he wanted to hide some of the information, and he was like, no.
He wanted to pick and choose what he released.
Right, and Julian said, no, we're doing it all.
Go on.
When he had a Twitter, I remember Julian tweeted about how, like, okay, if you have information on Trump or anything, please leak it to us or whatnot. So,
well, what if we've said here in the conspiracy community, the left eats their own all the time. We've seen it with the Me Too movement.
The fake left.
Right, the hijacked left, we'll call it. The hijacked left of trust fund kids and private school kids, okay?
The pussy hats.
The pussy hats, right? I love that. That's what we're going to call them from now on. So when you hear pussy hat on the show, just know we're talking about the fake liberals, okay? Yeah. But what we've seen is that they eat their own, okay? So they do this Me Too movement, which was a giant psyop.
They never talk about children.
Yeah, they never talk about pedophilia. That's that's another whole episode I'm going to do. But
Nexium, yeah.
So, but then they're all like, yeah, be mean to men. And then when one of theirs gets accused of it, they just eat him alive. What happened with Chris Hardwick should scare everybody. It's one of the most disgusting things I've ever seen in my life. A man who's worked his whole life to get to where he is, made life changes in his behavior to achieve dreams he had, and his ex-girlfriend, when she has a movie coming out in this third-rate film festival, decides to throw him under a bus for a bunch of press, and all these people who he got fucking their first credit, none of them came to defend him. They all threw him under the bus, and luckily cooler heads prevailed, and he got all of his shows back, but they will eat it. So let's go back to Hillary Clinton, and we all know it's Seth Rich that released those, right?
Yeah, this is one of the So Seth Rich, I remember. Okay, can we talk about the DNC lawsuit?
Yeah.
So do you know a lot about Jared Beck?
Yes.
Jared
I was
Beck.
going to bring that up.
Bring it up, please. Let's get into that.
Well, no, I was going to say you had, just dead bodies were everywhere around that time. You had Sean Lucas, who was working with, not for Jared Beck, who basically served the DNC on tape. Hey, I'm Sean Lucas. I'm serving the DNC, and I'm serving Debbie Wasserman Schultz. Within, a few days, he's found dead on his bathroom floor. And then, Seth Rich. And this is what concerns me about the white hat, whatever that conversation is. Both sides are now doubling down on the fact that it was the Russians that hacked. But we know through digital forensics that it was an inside leak, and we know it was
even the right is now saying
so it troubles me that
Russians?
both Republican, especially the Republican side,
really?
is doubling down on the fact that it was Russia that did it.
Yeah, if you really fall for this right-left bullshit, you're just falling for the mind games, man.
I know. It's like it's red hat versus pink pussy hat. Like red hat versus pink pussy hat. You're still an NPC either way.
Yeah.
It's not about Democrat versus Republican, white versus black. It's about who's governing versus who is being governed.
Yes.
Who owns the resources versus who doesn't have the
agree
resources.
more, dude.
But it's just so funny because when this the news broke out about Seth Rich, you have all the pussy hats getting mad at me, posting articles about it, and they're like, but Snopes says.
Oh my God. Can we go back to Snopes? I bet they changed all their predictions, but all the things they lied about during the 2016, which later on all proved to be completely true, which they told us wasn't true. People be like, Snopes that shit. And it's like, dude, I block people on my social media if they put any links to Snopes. I go, that's an automatic block. It's one strike, you're out.
Unfortunately, a lot of my friends are in showbiz, and they're the total pussy hats, and they're like, the first thing they see on Google is Snopes, and of course it's designed that way. They don't even know that Google is lying to you.
Right.
Thank you, Kanye, for going on stage and saying Google lied to you. Yes, Kanye. And so, but Snopes says, Snopes, do you know who owns Snopes? It was a husband and wife, and he left his wife, I believe, for a prostitute, something like that.
We ain't judging sex workers.
Yeah. No, that's just a story. Yeah. And I think
it was a guy that started on his own, just trying to debunk shit,
and a cat with them,
and then it became
CIA funded, right? Yeah. Something like that. And that's what it is. And it's like, you're gonna listen to these guys telling you what's true or false. I remember walking into a coffee shop while everyone was drinking their freshly brewed cup of GMOs, and you've got like the Washington Post there, the New York Times, and like zombies, they're reading it.
Well,
he's a Russian asset. Well, they're not even thinking who owns the Washington Post.
Right.
The CIA funds the Washington Post.
This was the first election that people actually kind of were like, oh my God, these newspapers might be compromised or something like that. But because the Washington Post before that was like the demigod of all the fucking things that were coming out, because they published the Pentagon Papers. And they were right there, and all the Robert Redford movie was out, and like, all those people. So it's like, I don't think anybody was aware of the fact that these newspapers could be working on a side for somebody else.
Well, Times Magazine named Julian Assad Person of the Year 2010.
Yeah,
which is not a compliment. That's just Person of the Year. Just means you were.
But was that before the drop of the war logs, or?
No, that was after, obviously, because it made such a big impact.
I see.
Yeah, he fucked up. It was just a big deal.
But then after the DNC leaks, that's when they turned on him.
Wikileaks is the only news publication that has
never retracted the
story ever. It's batting 1,000. The greatest baseball hitter of all time batted 400 one time in his career. Okay,
and it goes back to what you were saying on his releases. Wiki has released almost 800, almost 900,000 documents over the course of its tenure. And like you said, none of them had been retracted, and a lot of them have been critical of Russia. So it's not like he's Putin's bitch or something. But this kind of goes back, some of this conversation we were just having, to what you originally started with, Sam. Everybody is so fucking binary in their thought process. It's
Yeah.
either Pepsi or Coke. There's no
Yes.
lemonade. There's
Right.
no, there's no gray in this
couldn't agree
conversation. And
more.
that just is though there's no nuance to people's thought process, and that is so very frustrating. But it is by design, and it also goes back to what we were talking about groups. There's no real individual thought process. It's more what group are you involved in, and then they play these groups off against each other.
Yep.
Right.
And dude, I mean, if you really
That's the
take a
whole
look at
point.
this whole thing with with just like Donald Trump, and we're gonna get in a lot of trouble for saying this to show because we have a lot of Trump supporters. Because just like I was very excited about Trump coming in, and I know people think that's a crazy thing to say, but with all the stuff with pedophilia and how he's going, and he was arresting a lot, and there have been a lot more arrests than administrations before. We got super excited, but we have seen a flip. I mean, I had Alex Jones here, and the one regret I had for that show was he kept bringing up Wikileaks, and I wanted to ask him, why don't you support Julian Assange? If you keep bringing up Wikileaks, and that's what...
He doesn't support him?
I never got to ask him about that. That was my only regret in that entire interview, was I never asked him what his feelings on Julian Assange is. And it's you have, first of all, we have citizen Donald Trump, when he wasn't running, hating Wikileaks, he should be put to death.
Look at the timeline too, because Trump, after the towers fell, he was with Giuliani. They were "This is our town. This is an absolute mess. I can't believe this is happening." And then Trump today, he's selling the Saudis weapons and continuing what was happening during that entire time. What the fuck is happening?
Well, in 2016, he said he loved WikiLeaks.
Yeah,
he loved the emails.
And then he's I don't know anything about Wikileaks.
And now he doesn't know shit. That makes no sense.
144 times he mentioned WikiLeaks during his presidential campaign. 144 times.
Yeah.
But why? Yeah, go on.
Oh, and now he just doesn't remember shit. So the U.S. president knows... loves the company, an organization, and then doesn't do it.
I know what we're going to say. This is part of his plan. He's doing business. But listen, man, you got to really look at what's going on with him right now. You cannot sit there and point out the negatives of the other side if you can't take a look at your own thing and what's going on. And this is a New Yorker who was fucking profoundly affected by 9/11, and he just sold the guys who funded it arms. And at some point, I'm going to say something, I say it here again. I think this whole thing has been a giant script. What do we know about Clintons and the Bushes? We thought they hated each other during that election when I think it was 1990. Was that the election, or 92 when Clinton ran? And we thought they hated each other, but little did we know that they were business partners before in fucking smuggling the cocaine into Arkansas for the fucking crack epidemic. So they've been working together. So when Bush when Bush loses that election, right? That's when it's like when Andre the Giant lost the belt to Hulk Hogan. He knew he was going to lose the belt. That is part of the wrestling script. So if we know that script happened and we thought they hated each other for so long and they really were best friends, what do you think could possibly be about Trump and Clinton? Hold on. Trump and Clinton is that they were best friends forever. They went to, the Clintons went to their wedding. Their daughters are best friends, man. Trump gave so much money to the Clinton fucking campaigns over and over and over and over again, dude. And now we see this whole fucking thing where it's this whole thing with the Pfizer report, wiretapping. This could all be scripted. It could all be scripted to get Trump the second election because all he's doing is deregulating everything.
It's the same thing with the tariffs, though, too, because he has companies that are in China, right? So he's saying he's doing all these tariffs. Well, it's just like we've seen with the tariffs. It doesn't hurt anybody except for the consumer because once they come over here, they just jack the prices in order to pay the tax for the shipping and stuff.
I think we got duped. And what I want to say, and I want to say it earlier, is that the reason the Clintons got fucking stuff given to WikiLeaks by Democrats is because Democrats or young liberals like Seth Rich, let's say, probably believes in equality, love, and all that stuff, which tends to be what when we think of liberals. And when we find out Hillary's just talking game but really is a neocon at heart, these people get upset, so they want to expose fraud. Well, the truth of the matter is like what Trump talks about, which is strong military, deregulations, lower taxes, all this stuff. And I'm for lower taxes. I'm pro-gun, and I'm all the shit. I'm not a Republican, but I'm those things. But his base, he doesn't have to lie to them about those things. He can be straight up honest with them because that's what they want. So they're less likely to put out any emails that are damaging to Trump because they think like he does. Whereas the Clintons and the top of the DNC are lying to their constituents, and the base is getting angry. So they're like, fuck this. I see this email that says she's fucking lying to us. I'm going to put it out.
Well, I mean, to say, I mean, what Assange has put out is, it is pretty breathtaking. It is rather disturbing. But to lament the fact that there's war crimes during a war is like handing out speeding tickets during the Indy 500. They're almost all doing it. So this notion, again, of white hat, et cetera, and Sam, we could kick these political footballs around, and that's part of what the groups and dividing is. But, dude, how the fuck is Donald Trump a white hat when John Bolton is his national security advisor?
I'm with you on that,
And Elliot Abrams is helping form his foreign policy and just provoking more and more wars using undemocratic means to install democracy in Venezuela to unseat a democratically elected president. It's like we get caught up in a lot of this bullshit.
No,
but
I'm with you. What I'm trying to explain is why there's no. I'm with you, Jeffrey. What I'm trying to explain is why nobody's released Donald Trump's taxes. Why? Because no one on the inside has done that because they think like him. He's not lying to his base. Whereas the Clintons and the head of the DNC are lying to their base because they're saying one thing and doing another thing. So they're more likely, the base more likely to be like, fuck you, we caught you lying. Here's the proof. You want to say something?
Well, and again, Assange, if this information is so dope, again, we know war crimes happen. Why are we not seeing any documents on 9/11? Like we were just talking about. I mean, there's the whole reason all this shit's happened in the last 15 years is 9/11. Why are there no disclosures from Snowden or Assange about this huge fucking deal? We get kind of these little bits and pieces about war crimes, which sucks. But what about the complete architecture that set all this into motion?
Well, actually, Wikileaks did drop leaks on how Mossad was involved in 9/11.
Well, we just got a big drop on the dancing Israelis just came out, and how they found the pictures of them basically at the place in which the lady, who I can't believe wasn't killed, but said she saw the dancing Israelis cheering at the buildings getting hit.
And then you had Trump characterize it as dancing Arabs. So he knew they were Israelis, but he called them dancing Arabs.
That was in Jersey. They were like across the bridge or something, right?
I mean, and Ryan Dawson just basically broke down where he could tell you each one of the guys, because for some reason the heads were blurred out when they released, and he said he could tell you which one each one of them were.
They've been on the news. Back in the day, they were on the news and interviewed. I forget all their names, but 3 or 4 of them were interviewed on the news about this.
Yeah. So then you had.
So it's not a puzzle.
Can we all agree here that Trump basically got elected thanks to WikiLeaks? Can we say that based on a lot of the a lot of stuff that not solely, but a big part of it?
Yeah.
We'll lock her up.
I don't know about that.
Well, Comey coming out a week or two before.
Okay. Here are all the reasons Trump became president. First of all, like the DNC cheated Bernie Sanders.
Yes.
Okay, there was the DNC lawsuit that no one ever talks about. 2 witnesses dropped dead. By the way, I also wouldn't be surprised if when Bill Clinton played golf with Donald Trump, he probably told him run for, president. I heard something like that. I don't know if that's true, but I wouldn't be surprised if that happened.
Yeah.
So you have those WikiLeaks emails telling you exactly like they did cheat Bernie. They don't say anything about it. They blame Russians.
On a lot of stuff
Bernie comes and calls me a Russian troll.
Bernie called you.
He goes and endorses the people he knows stole from him. That is so fucking puss ass.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's opposition too, dude, and I think that's why he's not getting the traction he got from last time. Because of how he's reacted to stuff. He's gone all along with the script on Venezuela, hasn't said anything about Julian Assange.
First of all, those emails talked about how Trump, let's make him the Pied Piper candidate. Right there. They're telling you you're stupid and you can be manipulated. Right there. Why aren't you mad at them? That was their strategy. They thought they were being brilliant. That was a brilliant strategy, and it came and just bam.
Why hasn't Trump released him? Why hasn't Trump pardoned him? Why hasn't Trump pardoned Julian Assange. Everyone's like, well, he had to extract him to get him in. I get it because you want to make sense of this. You want to make sense because we've played this game, and why isn't he been extracted, and why hasn't Trump just exonerated him? I mean, you got to ask yourself that.
Trump taught Vince McMahon how to be Vince McMahon. He's the master of the work. And going back to what you just said a minute ago, Sam, about when Obama came in, like, what was Obama supposed to be? This outside non-establishment comes in with 8 years and is just a bitch of the establishment left and right. So we swing that pendulum every 4 to 8 years. And now, supposedly, we hated Obama so much, the pendulum swung to this other cult of personality. And what did he do? Talked, lone or not, gunslinger, doesn't really care what everybody says, but winds up surrounding himself by Goldman Sachs. John
and
Bolton,
supposedly,
et cetera.
Jeffrey, a big thing was he was money laundering these drug cartels money through his casinos.
In the 90s,
That's allegedly, dude. And who runs the drug cartels? The CIA, dude. And you notice he's gone after the FBI, but not really the CIA? You think about that, dude.
Yeah, that's
I mean, like,
And
I
that
want to
sheep dipping
believe,
you were talking about earlier, that goes back to Lee Harvey Oswald. He was a CIA agent that infiltrated the FBI. Not many people know that.
I'm telling you, man, I hope I'm wrong. And if I'm wrong, I will come on this show and go, guys, I was wrong. Trump is a white hat. I want to be wrong. I want to be.
But I don't understand how people really thought like Trump was gonna drain the swamp. Like that,
it was it was so smart the way it was done, dude.
But like the notion that the U.S. president, you have all these like corporate comedians who are mouthpieces for the establishment. Like Samantha Bee recently said the president is the most powerful person in the world. No, they're not. Like the president is not. Have you heard of the Rockefellers? Have you heard of the Rothschilds?
Oh, have you heard of the Passard? Have you ever heard of this family? The P's, the
you can't even pronounce the name right. That's how it is.
P-A-E-S-E-U-R.
The Satanists?
No, it's
Passard family.
Yes, I think I've heard about that.
Now they're supposedly, how they always say, if you know their name, they don't run shit.
Yeah.
And this is the group, and that the Rothschilds are literally their fucking accountants.
I remember seeing
the president's no more run shit than the Orkin man runs the Orkin company. They're just figureheads. Dude.
I mean, let's just look into, now let's move on to, so basically Trump, who helped get elected by WikiLeaks, hasn't done anything. The media, who's so worried about Costa being thrown out of these presidential fucking press corps fucking interviews, now they're going nuts. Don't say anything about Julian Assange. They only demonize him. They demonize him as the National Review said he's petty, biased, hostile foreign actor. CNN described him as an activist, not a journalist. Okay, who's facing Justice. Fox News, who, a couple people have said something. But Bloomberg, Washington Post, all have eager to say Assange is not a journalist, dude. Okay,
yeah. And let me mention the corporate comedians. They, all the jokes are the same. Orange man bad, orange man bad. And Julian Assange basically... let me see. Santa Claus with a manifesto. Who was that said that recently? And then Trevor Noah.
Bill Maher, probably.
Trevor Noah.
Sounds like Bill Maher.
Trevor Noah. What did he call him to? I mean, they all just smear him. He called a Bond villain. A Bond villain. So they're just brainwashing people like he's the bad guy.
I mean, The Daily Show. I have friends who work on it. I'm so happy they're working. God bless them. But The Daily Show.
It doesn't matter though, because of the true liberals, like people that really know what has happened since the Vietnam War. They know exactly what's going on.
There are very few of them, though, I feel.
Yeah, but Bill Maher and those people, they can spout their bullshit, but like the real ones,
they're trust fund kids.
Yeah, they know what's going on.
I want to get to you and your thoughts on Chelsea Manning.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you have some information allegedly that you think. I want to know what your thoughts are, possibly.
Well, there was some information that came out on the internet that Chelsea Manning was used to set up Julian Assange. So she was working for the military. She went into the military in 2008 or 2007 or something like that. And then by 2010, when she was in Iraq, is when the Iraq war logs were released. Now, after that, or when before prison, or I can't remember how the timeline goes, but she was going to these hacker groups in Boston and Cambridge, and she talked to this guy named Adrian Lamo.
Are these CIA hacking groups? Are these groups were established people learn how to hack for the establishment.
It's happening in Cambridge.
Yes.
So I mean, there's your first clue.
Okay.
Like nothing in Boston and Harvard goes down that's normal.
Yeah. Well, they were these, as we know, that these elite schools are funded by basically opium dealing families. That's all the high-end Ivy League schools were all established by opium families.
Right. And so she was going with her boyfriend to these hacker parties, and she told Adrian Lamo, who is an informant. Now, he's an old hacker that got busted for hacking into the New York Times. He hacked into Yahoo, and the other one was like Microsoft or something like that. But and he became an informant to try to get his sentence lessened or whatever. And she told Adrian Lamo, like, because she was, having a I don't feeling insecure about myself and blah 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 blah. And then she told him at one of these parties that she was the one that leaked the Iraq war logs. Now, if you're afraid to get incarcerated because of what you've done on a military base, why the fuck would you go to a hacker party and just start running your fucking mouth, dude?
No, I get. But one thing you told me that was very interesting was that it took 17 hours.
Right.
To download these files.
On the base, it took 17 hours of being on the base in Iraq, like getting the files downloaded, and it was 250,000 cables, or upwards of 250,000.
Like, that's very interesting that you could sit there for 17 hours hacking into something and nobody notices it.
And nobody noticed on a military base? Like, that doesn't
and what did Chelsea get sentenced to? 35 years?
She got 35
and then Obama
years,
commutes it?
and then Obama commuted it after 7 years. She served 7 years, and then it got commuted.
And we got Assange looking at 5 years, and then the world comes to an end.
Right, but if you think
over
about
5 years, it doesn't make any sense. All this fuss over 5 years.
Right. So if
something's amiss.
Yeah, nobody's ever questioned if she could have been counterintelligence. I've never heard anything about that. Her father, Brian Manning, like we discussed still on the last show. Yeah,
tell us about him.
He was supposedly naval intelligence. They started in
Five
Wales.
Eyes.
They started in Wales. They brought them over to Oklahoma. Actually, Chelsea was born in Oklahoma. That was my fault. But she went back to Wales when they got a divorce. The mother and father got a divorce. But he was a tech guy for naval intelligence in the UK. So they're suspecting that he worked for Five Eyes. So then Chelsea, and the story on the internet is Chelsea just decides to go into the military because she's good at computers or something like that. But her father was one of the main computer programmers in Wales at the time, which is right on a Navy base that is known for Five Eyes stuff. So.
Wow. This is, if you go back to if you could find them, Webster Tarpley, if you guys are hip to who Webster Tarpley is, he has some great interviews from years ago about how Snowden and Assange, it's a work. But I mean, yeah, that's pretty crazy hearing that about Manning. I didn't know that. Reminds me actually of Lee Harvey Oswald. He's some lone communist, but he's working at Soudjian Naval Base, working with high-tech photographic equipment and all these other places.
And they always
nothing new under
say,
the sun.
dude,
Once again, nothing new under the sun.
That these people are in jail. How do we? I mean, like, I really do believe this.
But
how do we know they're in jail?
Yeah.
We get told they're in jail. How do we know they're in jail? I mean, like, look at John McCain. He was supposedly a POW. He came back, like, super shredded, like, in great shape when he came back from Vietnam. And we all know what everybody thinks about that guy and what he was doing while he was a POW. I mean, like, we really don't know if these people are in jail.
Right.
We really don't know if they're being put to death. We don't know any of that. We just take that they're doing this. They could easily be slipped out and given a different...
You can't question anything. You can't question anything. You're supposed to just take it and be like, okay, that's what it is.
Well, this goes back to the beginning of the conversation. 5 or 6 companies run all these different hundreds and hundreds of different media outlets, magazines, radio, et cetera, et cetera. Again, they control the narrative. Unless you listen to shows like these, we're crazy conspiracy theorists. So it's like, unless you do some critical thinking, you're not going to know shit,
But listen,
dude.
Julian Assange, he was the computer programmer for the secure drop, the dropping of the files for WikiLeaks, right? So then Aaron Swartz comes out and with James Dolan and Michael Poston, who's editor, he does some writing for The Wired or whatever like that. And to make Secure Drop, which was like a model after the WikiLeaks model, which was that you can have a secure Dropbox where you can go drop your files, they get encrypted, and then they go off to whatever. So Aaron Swartz was killed, or
Yes.
he committed suicide.
Yeah, suicide.
And James Dolan died. He
Yeah.
was the second creator of Secure Drop, which was the model after WikiLeaks.
Nick fans wish the other Dolan had died. Go on.
Yeah.
In front of a
so-
train, who was that? An attorney?
Yeah, I don't know. But James Dolan's dead. Aaron Swartz is dead. Adrian Lamo, who Chelsea supposedly told I'm the one who leaked the Iraq war logs to, Adrian Lamo's dead. After
What?
that,
I knew none of
Yeah.
this. Holy shit! Are you serious?
yeah. So Adrian Lamo was the one that supposedly narked Chelsea out, right?
Yeah.
So he's dead. Because he was an informant. He was working for a government agency down in Florida that was some computer programmer, like cyber technology thing, and he was actually an informant working for the FBI or something, something
my
like that.
God,
so
this is
now
crazy.
James Dolan is dead. Aaron Swartz is dead. Adrian Lamo's dead. All the writers of Secure Drop are dead. But Michael Polson, who's a writer for Wired, and he's writing for the New York Times, and he's doing all this other stuff, now takes Secure Drop and gives it over to the Freedom of the Press Foundation, right? And now the Freedom of the Press Foundation takes Secure Drop, and now all the newspapers are using Secure Drop. So it's The Intercept, it's the New York Times, it's the Washington Post, it's every newspaper you've ever heard of is now using Secure Drop, and supposedly because the writers of the program are no longer around, that's now they have a backdoor. So if you're dropping any files to The Intercept, Glenn Greenwald is not who you think he is. That's how
What did you just say?
That's how Reality Winner got busted, is because she dropped those files to The Intercept, and Glenn Greenwald turned her in.
You just dropped a bomb at the end. You're saying
Holy
Glenn Greenwald is controlled opposition.
I've heard that.
He's
Really?
one of the founders of the Freedom of the Press Foundation. Yeah, and so when he's coming out writing all these articles, right, he's giving all the information about what's happening, and he's giving all the facts, but he's not telling you anything that you wouldn't already think, or he's not really connecting.
We need to just all have a
Oh.
disclaimer.
Yeah.
I love my life. I
Yeah.
love living.
Yeah.
I'm not to say I'm on this level of these other people's levels. I love living. I have no intention of killing myself. I don't prey on children. I'm a staunch heterosexual man. I love my life. If I'm found hanging somewhere, God damn it, ask some questions, please.
Yeah, me too. I love my life. I'm a weirdo, but I love my life. I treat everybody
But
with
listen,
respect.
no,
and
all-
I would never kill myself.
Yeah, but you know what? All of the journalists
Gotta
that
do it.
work on the ISIJ and all the people that leaked the Panama Papers and stuff, they're all still alive. So I don't think they're gonna come after us.
Well, there's some people doing way deeper
Yeah,
dig.
yeah.
We're more
Well,
like
again,
a
Andrew
search engine.
Breitbart. He dies and his coroner dies.
Right.
Well,
That was crazy.
That Adrian Lima guy, you're right. He did get into the New York Times and Google and all Microsoft things, so I could see why he got picked off. But I mean, fuck.
All right,
you know,
guys, final
yeah.
thoughts. I mean, our minds blown here. Final thoughts. Allie, final thoughts.
All I'm saying is look into if Edward Snowden is not who he says he is. He could be working for the CIA. He might be a black hat.
God
Check it
damn,
out.
they're everywhere. XG, final thought. It's fucked.
Yep, he's still fucked.
Yeah,
it doesn't
we're all
fucking
fucked.
matter.
It's all fucked. dude.
Yeah.
Jeffrey?
Hey, let justice be done, though the heavens fall, my dude.
Yeah. Soudjian?
I don't think Julian Assange is controlled opposition. I really think he's anti-war. Like I don't know. But what was I gonna say? This is bigger than him. Okay, so this is about the information on war, like we talked about, and the media that controls everything. They have shares in the military-industrial complex, and they smear those who want to show information about war crimes, and then they make the heroes like John McCain. So yeah, I think we should fight the propaganda machine instead of being involved in being distracted by monkey elections.
Yeah, well, that's why I will never vote for either party. I mean, I love Tulsi Gabbard, but they're already saying weird shit about that too. So
Oh, really?
We'll see. I don't know, man. I love you guys
I
very
love
much.
Tulsi, too.
Thank you guys for coming on. We'll
Thanks,
do
Jeffrey.
Guys.
we'll do
Yeah.
a follow up soon. You guys are all great. And we'll see you guys soon. Take care, everybody.
Later, bud.
You guys think Julian?